Welcome to Sing Swing Sing in the Spotlight. In this episode, I'll be talking to big band leader and ace bass player Joe Pettitt. What are your earliest memories of big bands and big band music?
When I first started out as a teenage musician, as a bass guitar player, I was in the Croydon Youth Jazz Orchestra. So about age 14, and I hated jazz, and I hated big bands, and the only thing was it was quite hard music to play, so it was quite fun to play something hard to play, but yeah, didn't like it much.
Well, that was a good start.
And then I remember buying a jazz album and having to admit to my best mate, I bought a jazz album. What? Yeah, I know, but...
Once you got over your initial dislike of big band music, what then attracted you to wanting to play it more and wanting to get involved in the big band?
It was a slow process. So then I ended up at Trinity College of Music, aged 18, and I'd gone there, I thought, to be on a classical guitar course, but I found out that there was a jazz guitar course, so I swapped over. It was like the first year of the jazz course, and they had a really good big band there that Bobby Lamb ran. Bobby Lamb is a trombonist and composer, and he'd worked with Stan Kenton and Woody Herman in the States, and he'd backed Sinatra, and he'd had his own big band with Buddy Rich playing at the festival hall, and all of this. He's an amazing guy, and so I joined the college big band, and then really started to fall in love with it from there, really.
I did one gig with Bobby Lamb with the RTE Concert Orchestra. They got me over there to sing a few songs, and he was conducting the orchestra, and he said some lovely things about the way I sang and all that sort of stuff. And we were rehearsing, and as you know, when you get to those rehearsals, you're flown in on the morning, you get a taxi to the studio, and then you start. And it's the first time probably that you've heard the arrangement. So we get into the studio, sort of fumble my way through this arrangement, trying to sort of earwig what's going on while trying to remember the words and all that sort of stuff. And we got through it, and I said, Bobby, do you think we could do that one again? It'd be nice to have a second run. And he just went, oh, the singer wants to do it again. They couldn't wait to get to the pub lunchtime, you know.
No time to sing.
So you can't.
He used to not want a singer in the college big band most of the time, because he said he'd spend as much time on the singer as the entire rest of the band in terms of the time that he would give them, and he just didn't think that was fair. Well, I think Emma McParland, who you know, she was sort of one of the only singers, I think, that he had time for, you know, and really sort of embraced.
Well, that's the key. Get the right singer. That's the key, isn't it? You don't get much better than
looking.
Emma. Yeah, we say you don't get much better than Emma.
That's quite right.
Fantastic. So I've asked you to choose 3 pieces of music, and I'm going to play some clips of them. What's your first piece of music, and why have you chosen it?
Right. So first up, Count Basie, and they're playing Corner Pocket, which is a great chart anyway. It was written for the band by Freddie Green. I think it was probably the only arrangement that he wrote for the band. So he's the guitar player, the sort of the unsung hero of the Basie band. And there's a great clip of this, which can be found on YouTube. I think it's from the early 60s, and it's in Stockholm, and it's a live recording. And I mean, it's, if you want to say to anyone, if someone says to you, what's this word swing mean? Just play them this, because Sonny Payne on drums, his eyes look like he may have taken some kind of dodgy substance, but it's ridiculous. It's so good.
we've obviously been working together for crikey, 10 years, something like that.
Yeah, probably.
And when we first started working together, you were playing bass in the Len Phillips big band. So how did you get that gig of playing? Well, how did you get the bass chair in the band?
So I was still at college. I think I did an extra year at college, so I was playing with Bobby Lamb once a week. So I was quite sort of experienced for a youngster in big band playing, if you like, more so than most people get the chance. And then an old teacher of mine called Roy Chilton, he knew Len, and Len said, "You know a bass player?" And so I went and covered a few gigs, and then the bass chair itself came up, and Len offered me it from there.
Now I know you had a close working relationship with Len. He was a lovely fella. I mean, he was a great help to me in helping develop a cabaret style, because that's when I first met him, going to work with the band. When did you and Len decide, or did you and Len decide about you taking over the band? What was the process and thinking involved in that?
Len decided. So I got a hello boy phone call. I need to come and have a chat with you. And so he came round, and I think you need to have Vicky there as well, because that's my wife. And so I remember we were in our first house. It was a tiny 2 up, 2 down, and we could hardly sort of crowbar Len through the door. Really, it didn't really fit. And and so he sort of said, "Look, the doctor says I've got to stop doing the band, and I've thought long and hard, and I think you might be the man to take it on. It's a lot to take on, though, so you need to talk it over with your wife and discuss, whether you can take this sort of job on, really." And sort of went through the good bits and the bad bits and what to expect, and left it with me for a week or so to have a think. Mm-hmm. Which I did, and we had a chat, and I thought, really, lots of people start up bands. We all know different musicians, great musicians that have started up big bands along the way, and they run for a year or 2 years, sometimes 5 years, and then they fall apart because people get bored of doing it, and they don't really. And the main thing is that they can't get the work, because to get work from nowhere is very, very difficult to get a band up and running and get some gigs, and have a fan base that will turn up to those gigs. And so getting 16 musicians together, getting the music, the library of stuff, you can see behind me there, that bookshelf is full of music for the band. So to get all of that together, and to have people that would come to the gigs, and to be able to get the gigs, to start all of that from nothing is just like, it doesn't work. People, please try if you're listening to this, but it's very, very difficult to start from scratch. And so the idea of it being handed to me on a plate was too good to refuse.
The band has gone from strength to strength under your leadership. I'm not just saying that. I learnt a lot from Len, like I say, in terms of how to present cabaret, the length of set to use, some of the material to use, who I was aiming it at, that kind of thing. What were the greatest lessons that you learnt from Len?
A couple. One was to be yourself. Len's presentation style was excellent. The audience were hanging on his every word, and rightly so, because he was a real fan of the music, and it really came across. It was 100% genuine, and he might make some rubbish jokes, and that was all part of the light-hearted side of it. But so there were lots of elements to why he was a good front person. But I think the most important thing, which I've seen in other people as well, is to just be yourself. Mm-hmm. Because they'll see straight through you if you start putting on airs and graces, or coming up with some silly act, or funny way of talking, or any of that. Suddenly, sort of thinking that you're somehow on the BBC circa 1950 or something. It doesn't work. They just want to see you being you, and Len did that really well. And the other thing that he always said was, if the musicians want you to do it, it's probably a bad idea. And unfortunately, that's quite often the case. And it's sort of, I'm usually with the band on the sort of stuff that they want to play, but quite often I have to sort of go, what would Len do? The band's all saying that they like playing it. That's probably not going to work with the audience then, is it? And it's true, you know, we as musicians, we like to play stuff that's a bit clever and a bit showy and a bit, you know, that was hard to play, wasn't it? And actually that, for a lot of audience members, not every one of them, but if you're looking to try and entertain the majority of your audience, then when you start getting to really clever, intricate, awkward bits, that's not going to appeal to the masses. It'll appeal to, you know, heavy duty big band fans, but that's not the masses. So unless I'm doing a club gig where I know that I've got heavy duty big band fans, if I'm playing to an audience in a theatre or at one of our Warner breaks or that kind of thing, I know that people just want to hear really good time, you know, commercial, great sounding big band music. Yep. And so don't listen to your musicians too much.
Okay. What is your second music choice and why have you chosen it?
So there is a bass player called John Clayton. He is one of my favourite bass players. He's kind of the Ray Brown school of bass playing, I suppose you'd say. And he works very often with a drummer called Jeff Hamilton. Jeff Hamilton and they're the rhythm section for Diana Krall, for example. And to me, they're the best around at the moment as a rhythm section. But they also have their own big band, the Clayton Hamilton Jazz Orchestra. And if I could sort of be playing in a big band that's, you know, in the world at the moment, it would be that band. And actually, he doesn't play bass in that band a lot of the time. He gets different people in. So this is a clip that was recorded live in Germany. It's called Squatty Roo, and I just think it's great, really.
So I can see behind you there, you said you got lots and lots of music, an extensive library. How many pieces of music have you got back there? Just to give people around at home an idea of the library that you've got.
There's about 1,000 pieces there behind me, 1,000 arrangements there. And that's sort of the bulk of the library. There's probably another 400 or so in my sort of loft space that I go to when I like special occasion stuff. You know, if I'm doing a 1920s thing, I might have some extra bits up there for that, or you know, Christmas, or you know, stuff that doesn't get played all the time. But yeah, so it's probably about 1,400.
Wow! So out of all of that music, what's your personal favourite piece to play, and what's your favourite piece to listen to?
As a bass player, I really enjoy playing Big Swing Face, which is a title track from a Buddy Rich album. I don't know why, really. I just think somehow it seems to sit really well on the bass with the big band. I always really enjoy it. Doesn't matter what band plays it. I've played that with rehearsal bands and amazing bands, and it's always great fun as a bass player. I don't know why. Maybe we could distill what's so good about it. But for me, I have a lot of fun playing that. It's good.
And what about to listen to? What's your favourite piece? Not necessarily from the library that you've got.
Yeah,
overall.
I see. There's an album that just I don't know if I could pick one track from it, but there's a Basie album called Chairman of the Board, and it's all Neil Hefti, and I really love all the tracks on there, and that's my sort of, you know, get in the car, tell Spotify to play something, I can't think what. I just need to feel good. Oh, I know. Play Chairman of the Board, Count Basie, and it's brilliant. Really great.
So you've done an awful lot of things during your career. I mean, I've seen you play bass in the Len Phillips Band. You lead the Len Phillips Band. I've seen you play bass in the John Wilson Orchestra, and with the Royal Albert Hall's own big band, Albert's big band. So, is there anything you haven't done in your bass playing career that you would like to do?
I've never led my own trio. As a sort of obviously there's the odd gig that comes along, but I'd really like to get together the Joe Pettitt trio as a sort of probably a piano trio, where I'd be playing the bass, obviously not the piano all of a sudden, but and to just to go and do some nice jazz gigs like that. I've never led from the bass a small band. Really like to do that.
I have to apologise. I switched off there because you didn't say you were going to book a singer for that. So
that's the second album.
Okay. Since the first lockdown last March, you've put a series. I know. It seems just like yesterday. You've put a series of outdoor gigs. Indoor gigs under strict restrictions. You've sort of put these things on. So why did you decide to put on these lockdown gigs, for want of a better word?
I think the first one I was just like, I sort of spotted an opening. I thought, hang on, you can have 6 people in a garden. That's a quintet and a cameraman. Brilliant, let's do it. And there was a little bit of, let's just see what we can do. Let's beat COVID musically at least, and then that went really well. Loads of lovely sort of responses from people watching, and it was lovely, wasn't it? In my garden that day, and it was windy, but the sun was out, and it was like, oh, hello everybody, and we're playing music, and it was just great. And I thought, well, we've done a quintet, we've got to do a big band, right? And then I found a farm that had a beer garden that they'd set up in this field, and they had a scaffolding company in the next field, so they built a stage, and we had about 200 people in the field, and then loads of people watched it at home. And again, that was really magic, wasn't it? Just to hear a big band again. I think we'd got to about June by that point.
Yeah,
something like that. June, July, might have been July. I can't remember. It was in the summer, so
it was raining, so it must have been the summer.
Yeah, it must have been the summer, yeah. And it had been, it was since March, so we'd probably had about 4 months, something like that, maybe 5, since we last heard a big band. I don't think anyone had done a big band live in the world at that point. Mm-hmm. It was, it was truly like, wow. And, the band were beaming and the audience were beaming, and even you looked quite smiley, That was great, and it sort of spurred me on, really. And since then, it's been great. Best bit has just been the amount of emails and letters received from supporters, saying how much they've enjoyed it. It's great. I've shown you before, haven't I? Orgies of letters, like, wow, it means so much to people.
It means a lot when you finish a tune, whether it be a song or an instrumental tune, and there's no applause because there's no one in the audience.
Yeah.
To then receive that applause by proxy,
it's
if
like
you like,
delayed,
through
isn't
messages. Yeah, that's really special. That's it makes it all worthwhile.
Well, I think as performers, we're ever so lucky, aren't we? Because we get such instant sort of recognition for what we do as a job. We're so used to we finish it and there's a round of applause, all being well. I mean, but generally speaking, you finish something and you get this round of applause, and then the people that you're working with in the band say, "Hey, that was great," or brilliant, well done today, or whatever, and we're not getting that, are we?
No.
So, and even when we do a gig at the moment, we're still not. We get this delayed reaction of these emails coming through or whatever from people, and that's really nice.
I mean, I know how much hard work goes into that you put in to set those things up, but just for everybody watching now, what are the logistics of setting up a live stream with a band? Just talk them through it.
The venue is the tricky bit at the moment, and so that's that's obviously changed throughout. And when the restrictions were relaxed a little bit, I jumped in as quick as I could and found, rooms where we could have an audience, albeit a sort of reduced size audience. So, but finding the space, somewhere where you can do it safely, legally, and that's going to work for sound and light and camera and stuff like that. So you got to find your venue, and then it comes down to whether you want to stream it yourself or whether you want to get some professionals in to do it. And I think if you've got quite a small ensemble, you can probably get away with doing it yourself. I find that just an unbearable stress to comprehend. There's just, if you want to be thinking about the music and your social, your comments and all of that, and then you want to worry about the camera and whether the stream's going out and is the sound okay and all of that mid-gig, and suddenly you're getting messages saying that it's broken or something. It's just too much. So I always get somebody in to do the streaming. But you can do it yourself. There are some great apps that you can do it. The first one we did, we just did it with iPads and an app. And so it might be that the person that you get in to do the streaming is just your mate or your partner or whatever. But it does take an extra person. I like to get someone in that does a really proper job. So we use Chris Traves most of the time. Mark Rogers does it sometimes. And these are proper sound engineers that have got a camera set up and they're able to do it. And they usually do it with one other person. And that way they're cutting between the different cameras and things like that. And then you've got to advertise it. Mm-hmm. And this is all new, until recently I've felt that a lot of the online advertising for a big band audience, I felt was a little bit missing the point, in as much as a lot of our listeners are of a generation that they're not perhaps so engaged in social media and that whole world of sort of online marketing. But there's no point putting posters up on Eastbourne Prom to advertise your online stream. So I've had to learn about that quite quickly. So we've been doing promotional videos, working on getting the sort of the likes up and the subscribers up and all of that. And that seems to be really crucial in order to get your viewing figures up. And then if you want to make it pay, so that you can actually pay the people that you're working with, because we still need to eat. And I'm quite proud that throughout this, every gig that I've put on, everyone's received their normal, if not more, of a fee. And so you need to set up how you want to get the money in. People have been great. They've understood that this is a gig, that they've gone to a gig, and that they've paid to see a gig. They might not pay as much as they would if they were going to go somewhere, but obviously you can attract thousands of people to watch. So if a percentage of those people are happy to do the right thing and put some money in the pot, then you can pay everybody. And so far they've been amazing, brilliant. The response has been great, and I've managed to pay everybody, even right up to a big band, have all been paid for everything that they've done. That's about it.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I applaud everybody that watches and that sticks their hands in their pocket. It's very easy to sit there and watch it like you would normal telly and think, it's on the telly, I don't have to pay for it.
It looks like free TV, doesn't it?
Yeah, but those people who actually make the effort to get the credit card out or whatever, or stick a tenner in from PayPal, through PayPal or whatever, I applaud them, and I thank them sincerely, because without that, like you say, these things just would not happen.
Yeah, we wouldn't do it. We wouldn't do it.
There is no Arts Council funding. There is no lottery grant. There is no nothing from the 1.66 billion. It doesn't reach us, does it? So,
no, never seems to.
No. So
but yeah, it's been great, and people have sort of been gently nudged to make sure that they realise. I think you don't want to flog it too hard, do you? You don't want a hard sell, because people are watching something that they want to be entertainment. But at the same time, you do need to make sure that your audience recognises that you've brought in tech crew and that that's their job, and they're doing a day's work. They need to be paid for that day's work.
Yep.
And that your musicians, it's not really a time to ask musicians for charity.
No. There's
they've got
never a
nothing
good
to
time to
give.
ask musicians for
Definitely
charity.
not at the moment, and loads of the players haven't had any help. I don't want to make all political about this, but loads of the players, about 50% of the players that I'm working with, have had no help from the government. Some have gone and got day jobs. Some have managed to just about get by with teaching and this and that. So when we do a gig, it's not one to do for nothing. I don't think. There's a value to it. They're very good.
Yes, quite right. So I'm going to ask you now to choose your third piece of music, your third clip, and tell us why you've chosen it.
Well, when you're doing an interview with Matthew Ford, it starts to feel a little bit wrong to not put any singers in because he starts to get the wrong idea. So I thought I'd better get a singer in, basically to make you a little bit cheerier about the whole situation. I thought I'd go with some Sinatra.
Oh, okay.
And one of the things, it popped up on some algorithm spat it at me at some point in lockdown, and I hadn't actually seen it. I'm sure everyone else has seen it, and I just missed out. But I hadn't seen the footage of Sinatra's main event.
Oh, okay.
And we all know that the opening that the Ladies of Tramp, it's Woody Herman's band, and it's Sinatra's big comeback. And there's that. I don't know if that story's true, that did they start the band and he got in the cab from his hotel and
It certainly
and
feels
they're
like
just
that.
going round and round and
Yeah.
round, and of course all the footage, and it's like it's the boxing ring thing, and he's in the middle, and the footage is great because it's like him arriving and the band are playing.
Yeah.
And they're going around da 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 da, and he's there, and it's almost like he's starting to sort of, that's me being a boxer, in case you didn't know, and he's there with his entourage in the sort of the tunnel coming through, and then he arrives on stage, and it's like, oh wow, it's the chairman, he's back, it's great, and the other thing that I particularly like about the recording of it is that arrangement is so fierce. And the Herman Band play it in such a ferocious way that you can't do that in many venues because it drowns the singer out. It's one of those absolutely, like, I've put it into a club before. I think you might have walked and you were like, oh, I thought it was the other version. And it's all nice, isn't it? She gets hungry. And this one, like, ba 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 da ba da. You're like, it's deafening. So you have to be careful where you put this sort of arrangement on. Obviously, at Madison Square Garden, there was enough room. Yes. So this is Ladies of Tramp.
Gets hungry.
So, Joe, about 4 years ago, we sat down with a glass of something in what they used to call them, the pubs. They used to call them pubs.
Remember those?
Yeah, remember back in the old days. And you said to me, how do you feel about making an album with the band, with the Len Phillips Big Band? And of course, I said absolutely. But at the time, I had an album that was about to be released. You had a current album with the Len Phillips Big Band. So it didn't quite work out. But then as time has gone on, we've sort of kept in touch about this idea, haven't we? And kept it on the back burner. And now we've got the opportunity to do it. So why now is the question I'm going to ask you. Why now in particular?
Well, as you say, the other albums have sort of seen their course. Usually you leave a few years between albums. So it's now time, as far as I'm concerned, with the big band to be thinking about making an album. And it's been great doing all these live streams with you and watching them back. And you're even better than I thought, actually. Watching the
nearly
streams.
very
back.
kind of you.
So it really feels like the right time as well to sort of offer a new and positive piece of recording to the world. And then we've talked about the various sort of ways that we could go about making the album, and once again these live streams have been so positive, and I was sort of mulling this over and talking to Chris Traves, our engineer, about things, and I said, well, I'd really like to do a live stream with the full band, but we can't do it in a concert hall because they're all shut. We can't do it in a theatre because they're all shut. We're not allowed to do it anywhere apart from outdoors, and it's too cold. Apart from recording studios, they're open. We could use a recording studio. We could do a live stream. What recording studios are open? Abbey Road. Brilliant. Abbey Road Studios. They're open. Okay, we can't afford Abbey Road Studios to do a live stream because it's Abbey Road Studios, right? It's the best studios in the world. Mm-hmm. What about if we used Abbey Road Studios at the same time as doing a live stream and made an album on the same sort of, we could just do a block booking of some sessions at the studios, and then we could do an album. This is good. Right, okay. Oh, if only I knew a decent singer to do an album with. and that's how I came to this conclusion. I thought, now's the time. We'll book the studios, we'll do a live stream from the studios, and we'll also make an album at the studios. So we've got all the chaps from the band, and we've got Matt Ford, and we've got Abbey Road Studios, and we've got Chris Traves and Mark Rogers there. Mark Rogers used to be an engineer at Abbey Road Studios. He's one of our sort of team of engineers that we work with. Chris Traves is a brilliant producer. And we've now got a camera crew that's involved for the live stream. And Abbey Road have said, yes, you can stream from here. It's all coming together brilliantly. And then I thought, still haven't got any money though. So I thought, well, who do I know that might have some money? I thought, I know, Pete North. So Pete North, for people at home, is a fantastic trombone player, bass trombone, just wonderful bass trombonist, played in the John Wilson Orchestra. But he also has Diving Duck Records, which is a lovely record label which has put out a load of Matt's most recent albums. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, well, maybe if I team up with Pete, that between us we might be able to fund the album to some extent. And maybe if we do the live streaming, that might just cover some studio time at least. But, and here's the big but, it doesn't cover it all. No. So we're close, but we're a few grand off being able to pay the musicians, pay for the studio time, pay for the engineers, pay for the licensing of the CD, the manufacture of the CD, the artwork that goes with the CD, the distribution of the CD. We're about $3,000 short.
So that begs the question, how are we going to get that money?
Well, Matt's decided that the silverware...
Yes, that's it. I'm going to pinch the silverware and then sell it.
He's had a chat to his mum about her earrings. So this is the big news. We're going to start a Kickstarter campaign. It's our first venture into the world of Kickstarter campaigns. They're very modern, terribly modern.
Well, you say that, but apparently, according to my mother with the silver earrings, in the 60s, bands used to ask their supporters for help to release records. So it's not as newfandangled as you might think.
I see. Well, it makes a lot of sense. I'm sure you get the same thing. When are you going to bring your new CD out? Is the question most asked of me, and I have to say, well, it's about sort of £12,000-15,000 I have to save up. So I usually save it up over the course of a few years, and then I've got it, and then we make the next album, and you don't really get it back. But it's nice to make an album, and it's great sort of to get the band played on the radio and all that kind of thing. And I've often sort of jokingly said to somebody when they say, when you're making the next album, I say, well, when you can give me 10 grand towards it, ha 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 ha. But actually, with the sort of a few thousand fans between us, wouldn't take much, would it, to fund the the shortfall at least of the album. And so we've got a date. It's the 20th of March. At Abbey Road Studios, the famous Abbey Road Studio 2, and it's just a brilliant place to work. Matt and I have both been fortunate enough to work there in the past, but not together and not with this band. It's great, isn't it? It's magic the moment you get there.
It's there's something about it that's the word. It's magical. You stand there. I've been fortunate enough to be in there alone, overdubbing vocals at night, and it's just the most atmospheric recording studio. It really is.
And you're literally going into the microphones that have captured umpteen amazing, all the best film soundtracks and records. It's literally gone through those same microphones into that same desk. Whether you're talking about the Beatles or Pink Floyd, or whether you're talking about the sort of, I don't know, the soundtrack to Star Wars. It's all gone through down those same cables, in those same walls, and into that same sound. You go like, wow, it really is. It's phenomenal there. And so we've got it, 20th of March, and we're going to do this live stream at 2:30. So Matt here is going to be singing with the big band, and that will be going out on YouTube and Facebook in our sort of normal way. So you're going to log in and watch that. So we've got that to look forward to. And while we're there, we're going to be making Matt Ford with the Len Phillips Big Band, the album.
Yes.
Which is
yeah. I mean, we've discussed material, haven't we? What we're determined to do is to get onto that album some of the songs, a lot of the songs that people always approach us to play or record. When are you going to put this on an album? When are you going to put this on an album? Will you play this one for me? Will you play this one for me? So what we've tried to do is collate those together and work out an album structure that works and fit as many fan favourites, if you like, as many fan favourites onto the album as we can.
And if there is anything that you want to hear on that album, can't make any promises, but it'd be great if you got in touch with either the band or with Matt, just to sort of put that forward. Also, with the Kickstarter, you can sponsor a song, I believe. Is that right?
It is right. Yes.
So there's loads. The way the Kickstarter works, there's a video that Matt's going to play that gives you all the details. But very briefly, you pledge some money towards making the album, so that we know that we've got enough money to make the album. And in return for that, there are sort of different levels of, they're not prizes as such, are they? But different levels of what you get for your money.
It's a reward, isn't it? It's
the reward.
A thank you reward.
A reward, yeah. So, from sort of starter level of signed CDs or CDs that come before the official release date, right up to getting Matt to come and play for you, or sing for you with a pianist. Apparently, I'm going to get dragged in on that as well now. So
yes.
You get piano, bass, and Matt.
You got your trio after all.
Yeah, with a singer. Oh.
Yes.
In your home. So that's sort of the top level reward. So there's a whole sort of sweeping, a whole raft of rewards for every budget and taste through that. And there's a whole page set up for it. But we're so excited. I can't tell you.
Absolutely. So we're going to play the video. Once we've finished here, the video will then be tacked on to the end of this, so everyone out there can see and perhaps start thinking about whether they'd like to support it. Final question, and you're not allowed to refer to anything we've just talked about. If you could fulfil one ambition with the Len Phillips Big Band, apart from recording an album at Abbey Road Studios, if you could fulfil one ambition with the band, what would that be?
Can I aim as high as I like?
As high as you like.
I want a regular telly show, like the band on TV. Doesn't have to be its own show, but I want the band on TV prime time when kids and younger people are watching. They don't have to actually. Don't even have to be kids, but just younger people. You know, people that didn't grow up on the big bands, so that they can hear how blooming marvellous it sounds, how fantastic it is, and so that they can go like, wow, I can't wait to find a band that's playing near me at some point. Or the kids that hear it go, wow, that's a trumpet. Oh, they don't even hear trumpets anymore. They've got no idea what it sounds like. And if I could have the band on a weekly, Saturday night, we could be the house band for something. Oh, I mean, not only would it be great for all of us, I think it would just do marvellous things for music in Britain.
Absolutely. I mean, the one thing I notice is we get a certain demographic, if you like, at our gigs, don't we? And on the odd occasions where we do have younger people, between 18 and 30, say, they love it. They absolutely love it, because they can feel the energy of the instruments, and they can feel the energy of the music, and it's all encompassing, and that's something that our regular audience, they know about that, and that's what they love, and they keep coming back, and they've been coming back for decades.
When did you ever hear someone? No one ever heard a big band and went, "Ooh, don't think much of that."
No. So getting it on the telly regularly would be, now it's not so much on the radio. It would be just fantastic.
Yeah, pow. I don't know, Graham Norton show or something with a live proper big band, playing everyone on, doing a number, different guests to come and sing with them each week. Even you,
resident singer. Okay, on that note, I'd just like to say, Joe Pettitt, thank you very much indeed for joining me on Sing Swing Sing in the Spotlight, and I'll see you soon.
Cheers, Matt. Bye.
Hi everyone, Matt Ford here. I've been lucky enough to sing with big bands for 20 years or more now, and for the last 7 or 8 I've been regularly performing with the fantastic Len Phillips Big Band. Joe approached me about 4 years ago with the possibility of recording a Len Phillips Big Band with Matt Ford. But we both had projects in the pipeline, albums that were being released, and it didn't work out.
A lady wouldn't flirt with strangers. It isn't.
We're really keen to get moving on this new project. So we've earmarked some fantastic songs. Now these are the songs that you request. Wherever we play all around the country, these are your favourite songs. These are songs that are the hits of Frank Sinatra, Bobby Darin, Matt Monro, and all those other fabulous, fabulous artists. Now we were trying to think of where would be really, really special to record such a wonderful album. And there was only one place came to mind: Abbey Road Studios. We do need your help and generosity to make this album happen. So here's Joe with more details.
Well, thanks, Matt. As ever, the singer leaves it to the band leader to deliver all the boring stuff. So that's why it comes to me to tell you about how this whole project's going to work. Now, every 3 years or so, we put out a new big band album. And across the course of that 3-year period, we save up some of our profits to fund the recording of that. Now, COVID means that there hasn't been any profit made, and in fact we've used up all of our reserves just to keep the business afloat. It costs about £15,000 to make an album. Now I'm going to put in some of my money, Matt's going to put in some of his money, and Pete North, our producer, is going to put in some of his money. But unfortunately that still leaves us about £2,500 short of the amount that we need. We don't want to wait another 3 years to make an album, and that's why we're coming to you for some help.
We looked at each other in the same way then. Can't remember where or when.
Kickstarter provides us with a platform for you to pledge your support to help us make the CD. If we don't reach our target, then you don't pay a penny. We've put together a series of rewards to hopefully suit all tastes and budgets. From just £20, you can receive an advanced signed copy of the CD. Have a look at the Kickstarter page and see what takes your fancy. If you want to know more about the way Kickstarter works, then their website's got loads of information and it gives you exactly why it's safe for everybody involved. A CD is more than just a way of us getting new music to our listeners. It's a great way for us to publicise exactly what we do. It gets us played on the radio, it gets press reviews, it gets magazine coverage, and ultimately what this means is that we reach new listeners and we grow our fan base and keep the band on the road. Now, I don't think that big band music gets the coverage it deserves in the media these days. By being involved with this project, you can help us in our crusade to revive big band music in Britain.
To Russia I flew, but then
As many of you will know, earlier this year, the band's founder, Len Phillips, sadly passed away. We'd like to dedicate this new album and our concert from Abbey Road to the memory of Len and to all the good that he did for everyone who loves big band music. Now, we've set our target for this appeal at £2,500. We think that that's an achievable amount, and it will certainly mean that the album can go ahead. If, however, we exceed that amount, what we've got planned is to get some new arrangements written and also to spend some more money on marketing and publicising the album so that, once again, we can further the news that big band music is alive and kicking in Britain today.
some things that happen for the first time, they seem to be.
Thank you so much for your support throughout the pandemic. You really have been amazing. If you could just help us with this one last lockdown push, we'd be so grateful. The band are raring to go, the studio's booked and the arrangements are written. We think this could be one of the most exciting projects in the band's history.
Let's face the music.